Hey there, welcome back to Chronicle Keepers. Or if you're new here, well, you have picked an interesting night to join us. Tonight we're visiting ancient Babylon, one of humanity's first great cities, where fortunes were made in the markets, and hands were lost just as quickly. This is around 1800 BCE, during Hammurabi's reign. You know, the eye for an eye guy. Turns out he had opinions about dishonest merchants too. Very strong opinions. Before we start, if you end up enjoying this journey through history's darker corners, feel free to like or subscribe. But only if you actually want to. No pressure. I'm not Hammurabi. Also, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is. I love seeing who's falling asleep to ancient legal codes at 2 a.m. Now go ahead and dim those lights. Get comfortable. Maybe turn on a fan if that's your thing. Let your mind settle. Congratulations, you've just woken up in ancient Babylon, one of the world's first great cities. You're a merchant. Let's see if you survive the day without losing a hand. You wake before dawn, not because you want to, but because a vendor 3 houses down is already shouting about his dates. The finest dates, the sweetest dates, dates blessed by Shamash himself, apparently. It's not even fully light yet. You're lying on a raised platform, essentially a bed frame made of wood or clay bricks, covered with woven reed mats and linen sheets. This is actually luxurious. Most people sleep on the floor. You've done well for yourself. Not well enough to escape the 5 a.m. date enthusiast, but well enough to have sheets. The air is still cool. Give it 2 hours, and that won't be a problem anymore. Babylon in summer can reach 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 49 Celsius for those keeping track. The kind of heat where you understand why ancient peoples invented beer before they invented the wheel. Priorities. You can hear the city waking up around you. Goats bleating somewhere in the distance. The low murmur of morning prayers drifting from a nearby temple. Prayers to Marduk, the patron god of Babylon, the one who supposedly created humanity from the blood of a slain demon. Encouraging stuff to wake up to. And then there's the dust. Always the dust. It settles on your skin overnight, gets into your mouth, your eyes, your food. Welcome to one of civilization's first great cities. You still sleep with scorpions. Your house is actually quite nice by Babylonian standards. Several rooms arranged around a central courtyard that's open to the sky. The courtyard is the heart of everything, where your family cooks, eats, works, argues, lives. Right now, it's still dim, catching just the first grey light of dawn. The walls are thick, sun-baked mud brick, about 2 feet deep in places, which keeps the interior cooler than the hellscape outside. Well, cooler is relative. Think of it as the difference between standing in the sun and standing in the shade. You're still in the desert. In summer, when the heat becomes truly unbearable, you'll sleep on the flat roof. Everyone does. The whole city migrates upward at night, families sprawled across rooftops, hoping for a breeze that rarely comes. But for now, in the cooler months, you're inside. The windows are small, very small, placed high on the walls, near the ceiling. This serves 2 purposes: ventilation and security. You don't want people looking in. More importantly, you don't want people climbing in. Because while Hammurabi's code prescribes death for burglary, that doesn't help you if you're already dead. Your eyes adjust to the dim light. You can make out the household shrine in the corner, small clay figurines of protective gods. Demons are real here. Not metaphorically real, actually real. Everyone knows this. The gods protect you from the demons that cause disease, crop failure, and bad business deals. You say a quick mental prayer. Couldn't hurt. Let's talk about what you own, because this is about to be humbling. You're successful. You're a merchant. You trade in spices, textiles, maybe some copper. You have enough silver to lend money at interest, which is legal here, by the way. 20% annually if you're lending silver, 33% for grain loans. Hammurabi's code spells it out. Charge more than that, and you forfeit the entire loan. So you're careful. But despite your relative wealth, your house is still made of mud. Sun-baked mud bricks, to be precise. If Babylon gets one of its rare heavy rains, there's a non-zero chance your wall will just dissolve. It happens. Buildings collapse. People die. Then you rebuild with more mud. This is the system. Your furniture situation is minimal. Some low wooden stools, woven reed mats, clay storage vessels for grain, oil, dates, maybe a wooden chest for your more valuable trade goods and contracts. Yes, written contracts. We'll get to those later. But you're not sitting on a couch. Couches won't be invented for another 1,000 years or so. The floor is packed earth, sometimes covered with bitumen, basically ancient tar, to keep it smooth and water-resistant. It's actually quite ingenious. It's also quite permanent. You can't exactly redecorate. The smells are layered. There's the pleasant scent of spices from your trade goods, cinnamon, cumin, coriander, the sweet, thick smell of dates, the sharper scent of the sesame oil you use in lamps. And then there's the acrid smell from the public latrine 2 streets over. Waste management in ancient Babylon is a situation. Some houses have private drainage systems that connect to cesspits. Yours does. You're lucky. Others use public facilities or just the street. The city tries. There are rules, but this is 1800 BCE. Keep your expectations reasonable. Oh, and there's smoke. Always smoke. From cooking fires, from oil lamps, from the temples burning offerings. The air tastes like it. You swing your legs off the platform, and something scuttles away in the corner. Scorpion. Probably. Could be a snake. They come in from the desert, seeking shade and moisture. You've learned to shake out your sandals before putting them on. Everyone has. There are medical texts describing how to treat scorpion stings using incantations and poultices. The poultices might actually work. The jury's verdict still out on the incantations. You're not alone in the house. Your wife is already awake. You can hear her in the courtyard, speaking with a servant about the day's bread. Babylonian women are not sequestered. Your wife can own property. She can conduct business. She can divorce you under certain circumstances, though you can also divorce her more easily, which seems unfair, but this is ancient Mesopotamia, not a modern democracy. If you have sons, they're learning the trade, following you to the market, learning to assess quality, to negotiate, to read and write cuneiform. Yes, right. Merchants need to be literate. Contracts are everything. A handshake means nothing. A clay tablet with witnessed cuneiform script means everything. If you have daughters, they're learning to manage a household, which is no small feat. Spinning, weaving, food preparation, managing servants, maintaining the household shrine. Some women become priestesses. Some become tavern keepers, actually a common and respectable profession for women here. Some inherit businesses. You might have servants. You almost certainly have at least 1 or 2 slaves. Don't feel too good about that. Slavery is completely normalized here. Some are debt slaves, people who couldn't pay their debts and sold themselves or their children for a fixed term. Some are war captives. Some were just born into it. Hammurabi's code regulates slavery extensively. How much you pay for them. What happens if you injure someone else's slave? What happens if a slave strikes a free person? Spoiler: the slave loses an ear. The code is very specific about who gets to keep which body parts. Extended family might live with you too. Elderly parents, unmarried siblings, a widowed aunt. The household is a complex organism, everyone with their role, everyone following the intricate social laws that Hammurabi literally carved in stone. You stand, stretch, your back hurts. You're maybe 35, which here means you're middle-aged. Life expectancy is not great. 40 if you're lucky and avoid infection, injury, warfare, and divine wrath. The dust is already rising with the sun. Through the high window, you can see the sky turning from grey to pale gold. The city is fully awake now. The real noise will start soon. But first, you have rituals to perform. Because the gods are always watching. And in Babylon, you really don't want them to look away. First things first, you need to use the toilet. Your house, being relatively well off, has a small latrine room off the courtyard. It's a clay seat with a hole that drops down to a cesspit below the house. Some homes have drainage channels leading to larger public sewers. Babylon actually has urban planning, sophisticated sanitation systems. It's genuinely impressive. It's also still a hole in the ground, leading to a pit of human waste fermenting in 100-degree heat. You sit, you do your business. And then comes the question you haven't thought to ask yet. What about toilet paper? Right. Toilet paper won't be invented for another 3,000 years. The Chinese will figure it out eventually. You are not Chinese. You are not in the future. You are in Bronze Age Mesopotamia. Your options are clay shards, water, or your left hand. Most people use their left hand and water. This is why your left hand is forever considered unclean. You don't eat with it. You don't greet people with it. You don't handle food with it. Touch someone with your left hand in the wrong context, and you've committed a genuine insult. The social rules around this are ironclad. When you're done, a servant will deal with waste disposal. The lucky ones carry it to public latrines. The less lucky carry it to the river. The Euphrates is both your water source and your sewer. Try not to think about it. Speaking of public latrines, let's be grateful you have private facilities. Public latrines are communal stone or clay benches, rows of holes, no partitions, no privacy whatsoever. You sit next to strangers, neighbors, business rivals, and you all coexist in this deeply uncomfortable situation. The smell in summer is catastrophic. Flies swarm in clouds so thick you can hear them from a street away. There are genuine incantations to protect against toilet demons. People worry about being attacked by malevolent spirits at their most vulnerable. You're very, very grateful for your private latrine right now. Babylonians value cleanliness more than medieval Europeans will, certainly. Ritual purity and physical cleanliness overlap here. The gods favor the clean. Disease favors the filthy. Everyone knows this. A servant appears with a clay pitcher of water. You're not hauling your own water. That's beneath your station, and also genuinely backbreaking work. Water comes from the courtyard well, or from the Euphrates, or from one of the city's canal systems. The servant pours water over your hands. You scrub them together, paying special attention to the left one. Water runs down into a clay basin. You wash your face, the back of your neck, your arms to the elbows. The water is cool. In a few hours, it will feel like a distant memory. Feet next, always the feet. You'll be walking on dusty streets in open sandals. Your feet will be filthy again within the hour, but right now, you wash them. It's ritual as much as hygiene. If you have an important meeting today, someone you need to impress, a loan to negotiate, a partnership to discuss, you might request a full bath. This is a production. Servants haul water, multiple trips from the well, multiple heavy vessels. The water is heated over the cooking fire in the courtyard, then carried to your bathing room. Yes, you have a bathing room, a small space with a clay tub, basically a large basin, and a drainage hole in the floor. You're not lounging. This isn't luxury, but it's warm water, and it's private, and for a few minutes you're not covered in dust. Soap doesn't exist yet, not as we know it, but Babylonians have figured out alternatives. Fine clay mixed with water scrapes away oil and dirt. Ashes mixed with oil create a rudimentary cleanser, abrasive, slightly alkaline, surprisingly effective. Soapwort plants, when crushed and mixed with water, actually create a lather. You scrub. A servant might help, working the mixture into your back and shoulders, then pouring clean water to rinse. The dirty water runs off, out to the drainage channel, to the street, to the river. Everything goes to the river eventually. Now comes shaving. Men of status have beards. This is absolutely non-negotiable, but the edges need maintenance. Your cheeks, your neck, the line of your jaw. You want to look deliberate, not disheveled. Your razor is bronze, maybe copper if it's an older one. It's a flat, crescent-shaped blade with a handle. It is not sharp by modern standards. Bronze doesn't hold an edge like steel. You sharpen it constantly, and it's still duller than anything you've ever used. You pull the blade carefully across your cheek. One bad cut, and you're dealing with infection in an age before antibiotics. Men genuinely die from infected shaving cuts. Not often, but it happens. Babylonian medical texts describe honey poultices, which actually work as antibacterial, and incantations to Gula, goddess of healing. Practical medicine meets divine intervention. You finish without bloodshed. Good start to the day. Before you dress, before you eat, you have obligations. The household shrine sits in its corner. Small clay figurines, none bigger than your hand. Protective deities, maybe Marduk, Ishtar, goddess of love and war, powerful, popular, famously temperamental, perhaps nameless protective spirits. You approach, you kneel, you touch your forehead to the packed earth floor. This is not optional. The gods are real. They are active. They intervene constantly in human affairs. A good harvest? The gods smiled on you. Business deal collapsed? You angered something. Your child is sick? Divine punishment or demonic attack? Take your pick. You light incense. Frankincense, if you can afford it. These resins are expensive even for you. They come from distant trade routes, from Arabia and beyond. But the gods appreciate quality. Cheap out on your offerings and see what happens. The smoke rises thin and gray. You watch it carefully. The way it moves can be an omen. Rising straight? Good. Curling? Twisting? Collapsing back on itself? Maybe reconsider that caravan to Ur. You pour a small amount of oil into a bowl of water and watch it spread. The shapes it makes, the patterns. You're not an expert diviner, but you know the basics. Everything looks acceptable, no obvious doom signs, prayers complete, omens consulted. You can proceed. Time to dress. You wrap a long, skirt-like garment around your waist. Wool, or linen if you're wealthy and it's summer. The fabric is fine, much better quality than what laborers wear. Theirs is coarse, undyed, scratchy. Yours is soft, well-woven, comfortable. If you're particularly successful, the fabric might be dyed. Purple is ruinously expensive for royalty and the highest priests, but perhaps a deep red or blue, colors that announce you've done well without being presumptuous. Over this you drape a shawl across your left shoulder, leaving your right arm free. Practical. You need your dominant arm for work, for gestures, for greetings, and traditional. The specific way you drape the fabric indicates your status. Everyone can read it at a glance. Leather sandals go on your feet. You check them for scorpions first. The leather is good quality, but they're still just sandals. Your feet will burn on hot paving stones. The soles protect you from the worst, but Babylon in summer heats stone until it can blister skin. Around your neck, you hang your cylinder seal. This small carved stone cylinder is crucial. When rolled across wet clay, it leaves your unique impression, images and your name in cuneiform. This is your signature, your ID, your proof of identity in every business transaction. Lose this, and you lose your legal identity. Someone finds it, they can forge contracts in your name. You guard this with your life. You might also wear a copper bracelet, bronze if you're showing off. Maybe a simple necklace, nothing too elaborate. You're a merchant, not a priest or noble. There are limits to respect. Your beard gets attention now. You work scented oil into it, cedar oil, myrrh, something fragrant. This conditions the hair, smells pleasant, and loudly announces you can afford scented oils. Your hair gets the same treatment. If you have a skilled servant, they might coil it into those elaborate ringlets you see in Babylonian art. Incredibly structured curls. It's a whole look. It requires time, skill, and product. You trim your fingernails with a small bronze blade. Clean nails are civilized. Ragged nails suggest poverty or worse, barbarism. You are now presentable. Clean, dressed, groomed, blessed by the gods. You are also already starting to sweat. Here's the fundamental tension. Babylonian standards of cleanliness exist in direct opposition to Babylonian environmental reality. You are clean right now. Truly, genuinely clean. You've washed, you've oiled your skin and hair, you're wearing fresh clothes. In 1 hour, you will be covered in dust. The wind carries it from the desert constantly. It coats everything, everyone, always. In 2 hours, you will be sweating through your clothes. It's going to be well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit today. The perfumed oils help mask body odor. They cannot eliminate it. No one's does. You're all in this together, all slowly baking in the Mesopotamian sun, all pretending the frankincense is adequately covering the smell of sweat and river water and the public latrines 3 streets over. But you tried. The gods saw you try. That counts for something. Your stomach growls. The smell of baking bread drifts from the courtyard, mixing with the lingering frankincense smoke. Time for breakfast. And then the real test begins, stepping into Babylon's markets, where fortunes are made and hands are lost. But first, food. You step into the courtyard. Your wife and a servant are already at work near the clay oven, a cylindrical structure that radiates heat like a tiny sun. They're baking bread. The smell is good, yeasty, warm, almost enough to make you forget about the scorpions. Almost. Babylonians eat 2 main meals, one in the morning, one in the evening. This is the morning meal. It needs to sustain you through hours of work. in markets that will feel like standing inside someone's mouth. Your wife gestures to a low table. Well, table is generous. It's more of a woven mat, with some clay dishes arranged on it. You sit on a low stool, carved wood, another luxury, and survey breakfast, barley bread, the foundation of every Babylonian meal. Barley is the staple grain here. Wheat exists, and as a merchant, you can sometimes afford wheat bread, which is lighter, finer, more expensive. But most days, barley. Dense, dark, filling. It's not bad, it's just relentless. The bread is still warm from the oven. You tear off a piece with your right hand, only ever your right hand, and dip it in date syrup. Dates are everywhere in Mesopotamia. They grow in thick clusters on palm trees. They're harvested by the ton. They're pressed into syrup, dried for storage, fermented into date wine. The Babylonian economy practically runs on dates. The syrup is sweet, thick, almost cloying. It makes the bread bearable. Sometimes there's honey instead, from clay hives kept outside the city, but that's rarer and more expensive. Next to the bread, a small dish of cheese, sheep or goat milk, curdled and pressed. It's salty, tangy, a little crumbly. It pairs well with the bread. You take some, along with a few slices of raw onion. Yes, raw onion. For breakfast, Babylonians love strong flavors. Onions, garlic, leeks, they're in everything. Your breath is going to smell like a vegetable garden exploded in your mouth, but so will everyone else's, so it balances out. And then there's the beer. A clay cup sits before you, filled with thick, slightly cloudy liquid. This is beer. This is also breakfast. Babylonian beer is not like modern beer. It's thicker, more nutritious, sometimes drunk through a straw to filter out the barley husks floating in it. It's also safer than water. The Euphrates is your drinking source, but it's also where people bathe, where waste ends up, where animals drink. Beer is boiled during production, which kills things. Nobody knows why beer is safer, but everyone knows that it is. Children drink weak beer. Adults drink stronger beer. Everyone drinks beer. There are dozens of varieties: dark beer, red beer, sweet beer, filtered beer. The Sumerians, who were here before the Babylonians, had a hymn to Ninkasi, goddess of beer. This culture takes fermentation seriously. Your beer is good quality, not the thick, sour stuff laborers drink. This is smooth, slightly sweet, made with good barley and date syrup. It's actually pleasant. You drink. The beer is cool. It was stored in the shadiest part of the house, maybe even in the underground storage room, where it stays marginally cooler. In a few hours, anything left out will be body temperature or hotter. There's also dried fish on the table. Small pieces, heavily salted, from the Euphrates. Fish is common here. The river and the marshlands to the south are full of them. Carp, catfish, others you don't have names for. This fish was caught, cleaned, salted, and dried in the sun. It's leathery, intensely salty, and it'll keep for months without spoiling. You can afford fresh fish sometimes. The markets have fishermen selling their catches every morning. But that's a gamble in this heat. Fresh fish in the morning can be poisonous fish by afternoon. As a merchant, you have access to foods most Babylonians don't. Pistachios when they're in season, almonds, pomegranates, those beautiful complicated fruits that stain your fingers red. Spices you trade in, cumin, coriander, sometimes cinnamon from distant lands, sesame oil for cooking, which is expensive but doesn't go rancid as quickly as animal fats. When you have guests or celebrate festivals, there's meat. Mutton, usually. Goat. Sometimes beef, though cattle are more valuable for ploughing than eating. Wild game, if you know hunters. Birds from the marshes. Ducks, geese. Pork exists, but it's less common. Pigs don't do well in the desert heat, and they require more water and food than sheep or goats. Some people keep them. Most don't bother. But meat is expensive and special. Most days you're eating bread, beer, onions, cheese, fish, and whatever vegetables are available. Lentils, chickpeas, turnips, cucumbers. It's not bad. It's actually quite good when everything's fresh and well prepared. The problem is keeping anything fresh when it's 110 degrees outside. Food preservation is a constant battle you are slowly losing. The heat spoils everything. Milk sours within hours. Meat goes rancid. Fish develops that smell, you know the one, where it's not quite bad enough to throw away, but definitely not good enough to enjoy eating. So you preserve. Everyone preserves. Fish and meat are dried in the sun, turned into leather that'll keep for months. Salt, brought from the Persian Gulf or scraped from salt flats, is rubbed into everything. Salted fish, salted meat, salted vegetables. Fruits are dried or preserved in date syrup, which is sugary enough to prevent spoiling. Grain is stored in sealed clay vessels, protected from moisture and from the mice and rats and weevils that want it as much as you do. You check the seals regularly. One crack, one gap, and you'll find beetles and their larvae happily eating your barley. Beer production is constant because beer starts going bad within days. You brew it, drink it, brew more. The household always has beer in some stage of fermentation. Your wife and servants manage this. It's a full-time job. Cooking, preserving, checking stores, keeping the clay vessels sealed, keeping the oven supplied with fuel. Dried dung mostly, since wood is scarce. Glamorous stuff. You eat in the courtyard, sitting on your stool. Your wife eats separately, or perhaps with you if you're less traditional. Your children eat after you, smaller portions. Servants eat last and least. Everything is communal. Shared dishes. Shared cups, sometimes. You tear bread and dip it into shared bowls of oil, date syrup, stewed lentils. You eat with your right hand. Always your right hand. This cannot be overstated. Your left hand sits in your lap or at your side, unused. Use your left hand and you've just announced to everyone that you have no manners, no breeding, no understanding of basic civilization. If you have guests, and as a merchant you often do, they must be fed generously. Hospitality is sacred. It's religious obligation and social necessity. A guest in your home is under your protection. You feed them the best you have. You offer beer, bread, meat, if possible. To do less is shameful. There's a hierarchy to everything. Who sits where? Who eats first? Who gets the best portions? Age, gender, social status, all of it dictates the flow of the meal. It's all very civilized, very sophisticated, until someone gets food poisoning and spends 3 days emptying themselves from both ends. Let's talk about food safety in an age without refrigeration or germ theory. Contaminated water kills people constantly. The Euphrates is a slow-moving river in a hot climate. It's a bacterial paradise. This is why everyone drinks beer. Beer saves lives genuinely. Food poisoning is just part of life. You eat something that seemed fine. Maybe the fish was a little off, but the garlic and cumin covered it. Maybe the stew sat out too long. Maybe the milk was just starting to turn. 6 hours later, you're intimately familiar with your latrine. If you're lucky, it passes. If you're unlucky, you die. Dehydration kills people here. Dysentery kills people. Food poisoning can kill you. Spoiled fish disguised with strong spices is a known trick in the markets. Unscrupulous vendors will dose rotting fish with cumin and coriander and garlic until you can't smell the rot underneath. You have to know what to look for: the texture, the color of the gills, the clarity of the eyes. Parasites live in undercooked meat, worms, things that take up residence in your intestines and steal your nutrition. Medical texts describe remedies, usually involving more incantations than medicine. Your stored grain has weevils. Everyone's does. You sift the barley before grinding it into flour, picking out the little black beetles and their pale larvae. This is normal. Nobody understands food safety beyond "it smells bad, don't eat it." And sometimes, not even that stops people. Hammurabi's code has opinions about food, specifically about beer. Law 108. If a tavern keeper, usually a woman, interesting detail, waters down the beer or overcharges, she can be drowned. Drowned for watering down beer. This tells you two things. 1. Beer is serious business. 2. Don't mess with a Babylonian's beverage. There are laws about fair pricing in markets, about honest weights and measures. As a merchant, you're very aware of these. Use a rigged scale, and you're not just cheating a customer, you're breaking the king's law. You've seen the code. It's carved on a massive black stone stele, over 7 feet tall, covered in cuneiform script. It sits in a public space where anyone literate can read it. The laws are detailed, specific, and the punishments are memorable. You measure your grain carefully. You sell your spices honestly. You don't water down the beer you trade in. You'd like to keep your life. You finish your bread, your beer, your cheese and onions and dried fish. Your breath could strip paint. Your stomach is full of dense barley and fermented grain. You're a merchant. You eat better than laborers, better than farmers, better than most of the city. You have access to wheat bread, to imported spices, to fresh meat on special occasions. You drink good beer. Your food is prepared by people who know what they're doing. And you're still one bad fish away from violent, potentially fatal illness. Even wealth can't fully protect you from the realities of food in the ancient world. No refrigeration, no antibiotics, no understanding of bacteria, just salt, sun, fire, and hope. You stand. Wipe your hands on a cloth. The sun is higher now. The courtyard already heating up. You can hear the city in full voice, vendors shouting, animals bleating, the constant background noise of thousands of people living on top of each other. Time to go to the market. Time to see if you can make a profit without losing a hand. The markets of Babylon are waiting. And so is Hammurabi's code. You leave your house as the sun climbs higher. The temperature is already rising. In 2 hours, the streets will be unpleasant. In 4 hours, they'll be genuinely dangerous. You're heading to the marketplace. Your stall is positioned near the processional way, the wide avenue leading to the temple precinct of Marduk. This is prime real estate. You pay for it. In silver, in favors, in carefully maintained relationships with the market overseer. The marketplace is already chaos. The noise hits you first, sellers shouting, each trying to outdo the others. Finest linen from the north. Dates, sweet dates blessed by the gods. Fresh fish caught this morning. That last one is probably a lie. It's always a lie by midday. Animals bleat and bellow, goats being dragged to slaughter, donkeys protesting their loads, dogs fighting over scraps in the gutters, the sound of wooden cartwheels grinding against stone pavement, a constant rumble underneath everything else. The smells are layered and intense. Spices, cinnamon, cumin, coriander, sharp and sweet. The acrid smell of human sweat. Animal dung everywhere. Roasting meat from a food vendor's brazier. Incense drifting from the temple complex, frankincense and myrrh mixing with the earthier scents of commerce. Color everywhere. Dyed textiles hanging from stalls, reds, blues, yellows, the occasional precious purple. Baskets overflowing with dates, dark and gleaming. Heaps of barley and wheat, golden in the morning light. Copper vessels catching the sun. Everything bright, dusty, alive. You reach your stall. Your stall is open air, a wooden frame with a canvas awning providing minimal shade. Your goods are stored in the small room you rent from a temple administrator just behind the stall. Security is a constant concern. Theft is common. The code has laws about it, but that doesn't stop people from trying. Today, you're selling textiles, quality wool from the north, some linen if you can get your price. Also spices, cumin, coriander, some imported cinnamon that cost you dearly but will sell for more. A few copper vessels, some grain, if the right buyer appears. You arrange everything carefully. Presentation matters. The finest pieces displayed prominently. Your scales are visible, bronze, balanced, tested against the temple's standards. Honest weights. You cannot afford dishonest weights. A fellow merchant nods to you from across the way. You nod back. He sells pottery and clay lamps. Not a competitor. Possibly a contact for future dealings. Everything is relationships here, and everything is watched. Let's talk about the Code of Hammurabi, because it's always there, hovering over every transaction, every negotiation, every promise you make. The code is carved in black stone, a massive stele over 7 feet tall, covered in dense cuneiform script. At the top, carved in relief, is Hammurabi himself, receiving the laws from Shamash, the sun god and god of justice. The symbolism is absolutely clear. These laws are divine. They are not suggestions. 282 laws. You don't know all of them, but you know the ones that can kill you. Law 108. If a tavern keeper, almost always a woman, waters down beer or overcharges for it, she is to be drowned. Drowned for beer fraud. Think about that. The punishment for diluting beer is death by drowning. This tells you exactly how seriously Babylon takes commercial honesty. Law 265. If a shepherd, entrusted with a flock, steals from it, he must repay 10 times the value. 10 times. Not double, not triple, 10. This applies to merchants too. If someone entrusts you with goods to transport or sell, and you steal from it, you're financially ruined. If you can even pay the penalty. If you can't, it gets much worse. The code is very interested in weights and measures. Use a false scale, sell short-weight silver, and the penalties are severe. Your hand might be cut off, or you might face public humiliation, your reputation destroyed. In Babylon, reputation is currency. Lose it, and you're finished. Law 185. If a son strikes his father, they cut off his hand. Law 196. If a man destroys the eye of another free man of his rank, they destroy his eye. Law 197. If he breaks another man's bone, they break his bone. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Literally. This is where that phrase comes from, and it's not metaphorical. Here's where it gets complicated. And by complicated, I mean deeply unfair. The punishments vary dramatically by social class. There are three main categories. Awilu, free persons of the upper class. Mushke, mushkenu, commoners, free but not noble. Wardu, slaves. If an Awilu destroys the eye of another Awilu, his eye is destroyed. Equal punishment. If an Awilu destroys the eye of a mushkenu, he pays a fine. Just silver. No eye lost. If an Awilu destroys the eye of someone's slave, he pays the owner half the slave's value. Not even full value. Half. You, as a merchant, are mushkenu. Respectable, certainly. But not nobility. Not Awilu. This matters in every interaction. A noble can harm you and walk away with a financial penalty. You harm a noble, you're losing body parts. The law is not equal. It's hierarchical, like everything else in Babylon. This is why contracts matter so much, why everything important is written down. Clay tablets, cuneiform script, witnesses, cylinder seals rolled into the wet clay, leaving impressions as unique as fingerprints. You employ a scribe sometimes. Literacy is specialized. Most people can't read at all. You can read enough to conduct business, to verify your name on a contract, to understand the basics. But for complex agreements, loans, partnerships, land transactions, you hire a professional. The scribe writes the terms in cuneiform. You and the other party review it, if you're both literate enough. Witnesses are called, usually other merchants, maybe a priest, someone whose word carries weight in the community. Then the seals. You press your cylinder seal into the soft clay. The other party does the same. The witnesses add theirs. The tablet is dried, sometimes baked hard in a kiln for permanent storage. It's filed in the temple archive or the palace record house. It's permanent, it's legal, it's binding. Break a contract, and you face real consequences. Financial ruin, public disgrace, possibly physical punishment, depending on what you did. Your reputation is only as good as your sealed word. A customer approaches. A priest from the Marduk temple, judging by his fine robes and the elaborate way his hair is curled and oiled. He's interested in the cinnamon. You greet him politely, respectfully. Priests are important customers. They're also meticulous and demanding. He asks the price. You name it, a certain weight of silver. He scoffs. Far too high. Of course too high. This is expected. This is the dance. Haggling begins. You praise the exceptional quality of your cinnamon. He questions its origin. Is it really from the distant east? How can you be certain it's not mixed with cheaper bark to increase weight? You offer to let him smell it, even taste it if he wishes. Pure cinnamon. Expensive because it's traveled so far. Because the merchants who brought it risked their lives on the eastern trade routes. He counters with a significantly lower offer. You look pained. At that price, you'd be selling at a loss. Well, not really, but he doesn't need to know your actual margins. Back and forth. Eventually, you settle on a price roughly in the middle. Both of you knew you'd end up approximately here, but the dance matters. It's respectful. It acknowledges the transaction's seriousness. He produces a small, silver bar from a pouch at his belt. You bring out your scales. Carefully, you place the standard weights on one side. Weights that have been certified against the temple's standards, tested regularly by market inspectors who have the authority to shut you down. The silver goes on the other side. You adjust carefully. It's slightly short. He adds a tiny scrap of silver. Now, it balances perfectly. The transaction is complete. For a very large purchase, you draw up a contract, call witnesses, use your seals. For this, a handshake, right hands only, always, and the simple exchange of goods for silver. The priest takes his cinnamon, tucking it carefully into his robes. You take your silver, adding it to the lockbox secured beneath your stall. Silver is the standard currency throughout Mesopotamia, but it's not coined. Coins won't be invented for another 1,000 years or so. Instead, silver is weighed every single time. Rings, bars, scraps, sometimes small ingots, shaped like animals, or geometric forms. All of it must be weighed on scales for every transaction. This is why accurate scales are so absolutely critical. This is why fraud with weights is punished so harshly. For smaller transactions, people use barley. A certain measure of barley is understood to be worth a certain amount. It's less precise, but it works for everyday purchases. There's always risk. Is the silver actually pure? Some dishonest people mix it with cheaper metals, copper or lead, hoping the difference won't be noticed. You've learned to test it, scratching it to see the interior, checking the color, weighing it against known pure samples. Credit and loans are common. Interest rates are specifically regulated by the code, 20% annually for silver loans, 33% for grain loans. Charge more than that, and you forfeit the entire loan. So you stay carefully within the limits. You've made loans to others. You've taken loans yourself. It's how business expands. It's also how people end up as debt slaves when they can't repay. The merchant 2 stalls down from you sells similar spices. He's competition in one sense. He's also someone you might partner with on the next caravan heading north. Other merchants are simultaneously rivals and essential contacts. You share information. Who has what goods? What's becoming scarce? What's plentiful? Which trade routes are dangerous right now? Which palace officials are open to bribes? For long-distance trade, you absolutely need partners. Caravans are expensive and dangerous. You pool resources with others. 5 or 6 merchants might finance a caravan together, sharing costs and eventually sharing profits. Shared risk. Merchant associations exist, though not as formalized as medieval guilds will eventually be. But they're real enough. Collective bargaining with the palace and temples, who are your biggest customers? Shared security arrangements for caravans, social networks. Your daughter might marry another merchant's son, cementing business alliances. Foreign merchants are both welcomed and viewed with suspicion. They bring exotic goods, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, cedar timber from Lebanon, metals from Anatolia, but they're outsiders. They don't perfectly understand local customs. They can be cheated more easily, but cheating them can also backfire badly if they have powerful connections. The palace and the temples are your biggest customers. They're also your biggest threats. Temples need constant supplies, incense, fine textiles for the god statues, offerings of all kinds. The palace needs everything: materials for building projects, luxury goods for the royal household, weapons, food for the palace staff, and the army. They pay well, usually, but they also have power. Taxes are mandatory. Tithes to the temples, taxes to the palace, a percentage of your profits assessed by officials who may or may not be entirely honest about their calculations. Corvée labor. You can be drafted for public works projects, building or maintaining canals, repairing city walls, maintaining roads. Your time, your labor, simply taken by the state. It's completely legal, It's expected. It's also deeply inconvenient when you're trying to run a business. Bribes smooth interactions, not officially legal, but absolutely universally expected. A palace official needs textiles for his household. You give him a very favorable price, maybe even a gift. In return, he remembers you favorably when the palace needs to make large official purchases. The palace can also requisition your goods at set prices, prices below market value. You don't really have a choice. Refusing means losing palace favor, which means losing access to the single biggest customer in all of Babylon. You smile. You negotiate where you're able. You pay what you must. You survive. A market inspector walks slowly past your stall. He's checking scales today, making sure they match the temple standards. You're not worried. Yours are honest, carefully maintained. But your palms sweat anyway, because one mistake, one accusation, one angry customer claiming fraud, and you're standing before a magistrate, explaining yourself, hoping your reputation and your sealed contracts will save you. And the code of Hammurabi doesn't negotiate. The morning wears on. You've made some good sales. The silver is adding up in your lockbox. You're considering your next move. Long-distance trade. Caravans. The possibility of real profit and real danger. Because Babylon's local markets are profitable, certainly. But the truly fortune-making, life-changing money comes from the trade routes that extend far beyond the city walls, the routes where bandits wait in the desert, where whole cities rise and fall, where merchants either return wealthy beyond imagination or don't return at all. That's next, if you're willing to risk it. You've made decent profit in Babylon's markets, but there's a problem. The truly valuable goods, the ones that make real wealth, don't come from Babylon. Cedar timber from Lebanon's mountain forests, copper from Dilmun, the island in the Persian Gulf, lapis lazuli, that brilliant blue stone, from Afghanistan's mountains, over 1,000 miles away, tin from the distant east, essential for making bronze. Babylon itself produces textiles, grain, dates, and beer. Lots of beer. These you can export, but to get the imports that make you wealthy, to sell the exports that fill your coffers, you must join a caravan. And caravans kill people. Assembling a caravan is expensive and complex. You need animals. Donkeys primarily. They're tough, reliable, can carry heavy loads. Camels are being domesticated for desert travel, but they're still relatively new to Mesopotamian commerce. Right now, you're relying on donkeys. You hire guards, men with bronze-tipped spears, axes, bows, men who look intimidating enough to make bandits think twice. Whether they'll actually fight when bandits appear is another question entirely. Some guards are professional. Some will abandon you or rob you themselves if the situation looks bad. You need drivers who know the routes, men who've survived the desert before. Their experience is worth its weight in silver. Your goods are packed in sealed clay jars or wrapped in cloth and leather bundles, loaded onto the donkeys. You're carrying silver, weighed and tested, for purchases in foreign markets and for the inevitable tolls and bribes. Before you leave, you pray to Shamash, the sun god, protector of travelers. You make offerings at his temple. You genuinely, desperately need divine protection. You and your caravan partners, usually 4 or 5 other merchants, pooling resources and risks, draw up contracts on clay tablets. Who contributed what? How profits will be divided? What happens if someone dies? Because someone might die. The contracts are witnessed, sealed, filed, and then you leave. Trade routes follow rivers when possible. The Euphrates, the Tigris, these are highways of commerce. Water, landmarks, settlements along the banks. But many valuable trade routes require desert crossings. The Syrian desert, the Arabian desert, vast, pitiless expanses of sand and rock and heat. In summer, temperatures exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The air feels solid, something you push through rather than breathe. Routes through mountain passes bring different dangers. Narrow paths along cliff edges, rock slides, extreme weather changes, and bandits who know exactly where to wait. You follow ancient paths marked by cairns, piles of stones left by previous travelers. You follow the knowledge of your guides who know where the wells are. Wells and oases are life or death waypoints. Miss one, and your water runs out. Arrive and find it dried up or poisoned, and you're looking at dying slowly in the desert. Caravans travel at night when possible, navigating by stars, trying to avoid the murderous daytime heat. You sleep, or try to sleep, during the day under makeshift shelters, sweltering, rationing water, praying the supplies last. The desert is beautiful. The stars at night are impossibly bright, more than you've ever seen. The silence is profound. The landscape has a stark, terrible grandeur. The desert is also merciless. Sandstorms rise with terrifying speed. The sky turns brown-black. Wind whips sand into your eyes, your mouth, your lungs. You can't see. You can't breathe properly. You crouch behind your donkey, cover your face with cloth, and wait for it to pass. Sometimes it passes in an hour, sometimes a day. Sometimes you lose animals. Sometimes you lose people. Water is everything. You carry it in clay vessels and leather bags, but it's heavy and there's never enough. Every sip is calculated. Dehydration kills you in stages. Thirst, weakness, confusion, organ failure, death. In extreme heat, you can die in 3 days without water, often faster. Heat stroke makes people hallucinate. You see water that isn't there. You see cities. You see dead relatives. Desert madness, they call it. People wander off, following visions. You find their bodies later, if you find them at all. Getting lost is a death sentence. The desert looks the same in every direction. Miss a landmark, lose your guide, take a wrong turn, and you're walking in circles until you die. The desert has predators. Lions still roam parts of Mesopotamia and the surrounding regions. Yes, lions. Also leopards in the mountains. Hyenas scavenge and sometimes hunt. Venomous snakes hide in the shade of rocks. Scorpions, always scorpions. At night, you hear things moving in the darkness beyond the firelight. You hope it's just a jackal. You keep the fires burning. You keep weapons close. The desert tribes know the caravan routes. They know merchants carry valuable goods and silver. Some tribes demand tribute. Call it a toll, call it protection money, call it extortion. You pay or they attack. You negotiate always. How much silver is your life worth? How much is a load of textiles worth? You calculate quickly, reading the situation, trying to determine if these men will take your money and let you pass, or take your money and kill you anyway. Some are honest in their way. You pay, they let you pass. Some even provide actual protection along their territory, guarding against other bandits. Others are just raiders. Attacks come fast. Men on horses or camels appearing from behind rocks or dunes. Arrows first, then spears, then close combat if your guards don't run. Your guards might fight, they might flee, they might join the bandits. This happens more than you'd like to think about. They owe you nothing beyond the initial payment, and a share of plundered goods might be more certain than a promised wage. If you're captured, and your options are bad. Ransom if you're lucky and your family can pay. Enslavement if you're not. Death if they don't want complications. Merchants die in the desert regularly, some from nature, some from men. The bones in the sand don't care about the distinction. Every city-state, every kingdom you pass through demands tolls. You cross borders constantly. Babylonian authority ends at Babylon. Beyond that, you're in foreign territory with foreign laws. Some rulers welcome Babylonian merchants. Trade benefits everyone. Some are hostile. Political tensions, old grudges, recent wars. You might be arrested on suspicion of being a spy. Merchant and spy are not mutually exclusive categories in the ancient world. You protest, you show your contracts and your cylinder seal, you pay bribes, you hope you're released. Your goods can be confiscated. Local rulers have power. You have contracts, but contracts from Babylon mean nothing in Mari or Assur if the local king decides otherwise. War zones make routes impassable. Armies don't distinguish between merchants and enemy supply lines. You navigate this through relationships, bribes, and luck. The Euphrates is safer than the desert. Relatively, reed boats and wooden barges transport heavy goods. Floating downstream is easy. Poling or towing upstream is backbreaking work. Spring floods can sink boats, destroy docks, and wash away riverside warehouses. Pirates operate along quieter stretches, away from major cities. Small, fast boats attacking slower cargo barges, strong currents, hidden sandbars, sudden storms. You can lose an entire shipment if the boat capsizes. No insurance exists. Only prayers and experienced pilots. Trading in foreign cities, Mari, Ebla, Ur, Assur, Susa, is essential. Akkadian is widely spoken, but dialects vary. Misunderstandings happen. A wrong word, an accidental insult, and you've created a dangerous situation. You stay in merchants' quarters when possible. Foreign traders clustered together for safety. You're all vulnerable here. Different laws, different customs, different gods. You must be respectful, adaptable, careful. One mistake, and you're arrested, robbed, or killed, and Babylon is very far away. Disease is different in foreign cities. Plagues you have no resistance to. Some merchants ship goods by sea, to Dilmun, in the Persian Gulf, sometimes as far as the Indus Valley. Ships are wooden, sails are basic. Navigation is by coastline and stars. Storms sink ships. Pirates operate in the Gulf. You lose a shipment and you're bankrupt. There is no insurance, only prayers to Ea, god of the waters. Most merchants avoid sea trade if they can. The risks are extraordinary. Every journey is a gamble with your life and your fortune. You must appear confident. Merchants who show fear are seen as weak, vulnerable targets. So you smile, you negotiate, you project success. Inside, you're terrified. You think about your family. If you die in the desert, they might never know what happened. Your body might never be found. No funeral rites, no proper burial, your spirit wandering forever. The Code of Hammurabi has laws about trade and debt, about contracts and property. But the code's reach ends where Babylon's power ends. In the desert, in foreign cities, on the sea, you're operating beyond its protection. You carry your cylinder seal always. It's your identity, Your proof of who you are and what you're owed. Lose it, and you lose everything. Merchants die in the desert regularly. Heat, thirst, bandits, disease, accidents. Others return with goods worth a fortune. Lapis lazuli, bought in the East for a handful of silver, sold in Babylon for 10 times that. Cedar wood that transforms into furniture for temples and palaces. Copper and tin that become bronze tools and weapons. The successful merchants, the ones who survive multiple journeys, become wealthy, genuinely wealthy. They build larger houses. They marry their children into important families. They gain influence. But the price is constant danger, constant risk. You've survived the market in Babylon. You've navigated the code of Hammurabi without losing a hand. Now you must survive the desert, and the bandits, and the foreign cities, and the journey home. If you make it back alive, there are other problems waiting. Because wealth attracts attention. Debts come due. Contracts must be honored. And Hammurabi's laws about merchants who fail in their obligations are very, very specific. That's next. Let's say you survived the caravan. You made it back to Babylon with your goods. You've sold them for a profit. You're feeling successful. Now comes the really dangerous part. Navigating Babylonian law. The Code of Hammurabi is comprehensive. 282 laws carved in stone, publicly displayed. Ignorance is not an excuse. Everyone is expected to know the laws that apply to them. Or at least, everyone is punished as if they knew. The code is also brutally specific. Punishments are swift and physical. Hand cut off, eye gouged out, drowning, beatings, fines so large they destroy families. This is justice. Babylonian style, clear rules, harsh consequences. The legal system involves trials, witnesses, evidence. It's not arbitrary. There are procedures. Judges, usually royal appointees or temple officials, hear cases, examine evidence, question witnesses. But the punishments, once guilt is determined, those are memorable. And here's what makes it worse. Your social class determines your penalty. Awilu, Mushkenu, Wadu, upper class, commoners, slaves. The same crime brings different punishments. A noble pays a fine. A commoner loses a hand. A slave loses his life. You're Mushkenu, middle ground, respectable but vulnerable. Debt is how business works in Babylon. You can't expand without credit. Can't finance caravans, can't buy property, can't invest in opportunities, so you borrow. And you lend. Interest rates are regulated by the code. 20% annually for silver loans. 33% for grain loans. This isn't negotiable. Charge more, and you forfeit the entire loan. Hammurabi was very clear. Every loan is documented on a clay tablet. Terms spelled out in cuneiform. Amount loaned. Interest rate. Repayment schedule. Collateral. Collateral. You might put up land, goods, your house, your workshop, or your family. If you default on a loan, the creditor can seize your wife or children as debt slaves. This is legal. This is normal. This is how the system works. Debt slavery is temporary, maximum 3 years according to the code. Then they must be released. 3 years is a long time. 3 years of your child working in someone else's household. 3 years of your wife grinding grain in a creditor's workshop. 3 years of shame. You avoid default at all costs, but you also extend credit to others because that's how you make money. That 20% interest adds up. But then you're the one hoping they don't default, hoping they can pay, hoping you don't have to be the person seizing someone's family members. It's a system built on desperation and calculation. Contract disputes are taken to court. You must produce your clay tablet. The contract with both seals, witnessed and filed. This is why you're meticulous about record keeping. This is why you file copies in temple archives. Witnesses must testify under oath before the gods. Lying brings divine punishment. Everyone believes this, and legal punishment if you're caught. Trials can drag on, weeks sometimes. You're paying for your time, for your lawyer if you hire one, for the stress of uncertainty. Losing a case means fines, penalties. Sometimes corporal punishment, depending on what you're accused of. A fraud accusation is career-ending even if you're acquitted. The stain on your reputation never fully washes away. People remember. People whisper. Trust is currency. Lose it, and your business dies. The code has specific laws about merchants and partnerships. Laws 4 through 107 regulate business partnerships, how accounting must be done, how profits are divided. Penalties for dishonesty. If you're in a partnership and you claim you were robbed or that goods were lost, you must swear an oath before the gods. If you're lying, the gods will punish you. And if your partner can prove you're lying, the legal punishment is severe. Law 108 again. If a tavern keeper waters down beer, she's drowned. You might trade in beer. You might sell to tavern keepers. This law hangs over every transaction. Law 265. If a shepherd or merchant steals from goods entrusted to them, they repay 10 times the value, 10 times. You're carrying goods for another merchant? You guard them with your life, because theft, or even the accusation of theft, ruins you financially. Laws about weights and measures. Temple inspectors check scales regularly. Yours must match the standard exactly. Short weight a customer, and you lose your hand, or face massive fines, or both. If you sell defective goods and someone is harmed, you face punishment. Sold spoiled food that killed someone? You're facing serious consequences, possibly death, depending on circumstances. The law is detailed. The law is watching. The law doesn't forgive mistakes. Certain accusations terrify merchants because the punishments are catastrophic. Theft, loss of hand, or death if it's temple property or palace property. Fraud, massive fines that bankrupt you. Public humiliation, physical punishment. False witness. Here's an interesting one. If you testify in court and you're found to have lied, you receive the punishment that the accused would have received. Think about that. You falsely accuse someone of theft, they would have lost a hand. So you lose your hand instead. This makes people careful about accusations, but it also makes you terrified of being falsely accused by someone willing to risk it. Sorcery. In Babylonian society, witchcraft is real and illegal. Accusation of sorcery means trial by ordeal. Trial by ordeal. You're thrown into the sacred river. If you float, you're guilty. The river god rejects you, and you're executed. If you sink and somehow survive, you're innocent. The river god has accepted you. Either way, you're being thrown into a river and expected to drown or not drown on divine command. It's terrifying and often fatal regardless of guilt. Adultery, death by drowning for both parties. This can be weaponized against you. An enemy wants you destroyed. Engineer a situation. Bring an accusation. Even if it's false, the trial ruins you socially. Kidnapping, death penalty, straightforward, brutal. Trial by ordeal is used when evidence is unclear or contradictory. The river ordeal is most common. You're taken to the Euphrates. Priests oversee it. You're thrown in. The gods decide your fate. In theory, the innocent survive and the guilty drown. In practice, you're being thrown into a river in front of a crowd, expected to perform a miracle. The current, your terror, your ability to swim or not swim, all of this determines whether you live. It's not really a trial. It's a religiously sanctioned execution with a slim chance of survival. People confess rather than face the ordeal. Guilty or not, they confess. Beyond legal punishments, you face constant threats to your wealth. Fire is catastrophic. Mud brick houses burn. They burn hot and fast once the contents catch. Everything you own can be destroyed in hours. Your goods, your contracts. If you didn't file copies elsewhere, you've lost proof of what you're owed. Theft by servants, by business partners, even by family members. Your cousin might be eyeing your success with envy. Confiscation by palace authorities happens. Wars require funding. Special taxes are levied. The palace can requisition your goods, your property, your labor. Legal. Unavoidable. Flooding from the Euphrates destroys property. Your warehouse by the river? Gone in a spring flood. Your goods? Ruined. Inheritance disputes. Your brothers or cousins might contest your wealth when your father dies. They'll claim you cheated them. Family loyalty means nothing when substantial property is at stake. There is no bankruptcy protection in Babylon. You can't declare bankruptcy and start over. You can't reorganize debt. You default, you lose everything. Your home, your business, your goods, your reputation. Your family members become debt slaves to your creditors. You might be enslaved yourself, working off the debt physically. Social death accompanies financial death. No one will trade with you. You're marked as unreliable, unsuccessful, unlucky. In a society built on trust and reputation, you're finished. Some flee to other cities, start over somewhere else under a new identity. But fugitives have no legal protection. You're vulnerable, always looking over your shoulder. Babylonian women actually have more rights than you might expect, more than they'll have in many later civilizations. Women can own property, conduct business, divorce their husbands under certain circumstances, inherit from fathers and husbands. Your wife might legally protect some assets in her name, shielding them from your creditors. Smart merchants do this. It's a hedge against catastrophe, but she's also vulnerable to your debts. If you fall, she falls with you. Her property can be claimed. She can be taken as a debt slave. Widows can inherit, but they face predatory relatives and creditors immediately. Your brother might challenge her inheritance. Your business partner might claim you owed him more than you did. She must navigate the legal system alone, and the system is brutal. You're constantly managing contracts, debts, partnerships, obligations. You have clay tablets filed in multiple locations, temple archives, palace records, your own home. Because losing a contract means losing proof of what you're owed. You track who owes you, who you owe, when payments are due, interest accruing. You manage relationships with creditors, debtors, partners, customers, suppliers. One accusation, even if false, can destroy you. The trial alone costs time and money. The shadow on your reputation never fully disappears. The law is clear. The code is public. Justice exists. But enforcement is brutal. Punishment is physical. Mercy is rare. You must be meticulous, perfect record-keeping, perfect honesty, or at least perfect appearance of honesty, perfect navigation of social expectations. Paranoia isn't irrational. It's survival. You've survived the marketplace, the desert, the legal system. You're still a merchant in Babylon. You're still alive. You still have your hands, your eyes, your freedom. You're actually doing well. You have a house, a family, a business, respect. But success brings new obligations, new expectations. Because in Babylon, you're not just a merchant. You're a member of society. You have religious duties, social responsibilities, temple obligations. The gods demand attention. The community demands participation. Your status requires performance, and the higher you rise, the more precarious your position becomes. That's next. You're a successful merchant in Babylon. You have wealth, you have a house, you have respect. You are not free. Babylonian society is stratified. Three main categories, though the reality is more complex. Overwhelm, free citizens, including nobles, palace officials, priests, and successful merchants like you. Mashkenum, commoners, dependents, free but of lower status. Wardum, slaves, you're a Willem. Free, prosperous, but you're not nobility, you're not a priest, you're not a palace official. You're wealthy but not politically powerful. Below priests and palace bureaucrats in social prestige. Above craftsmen, farmers, laborers. Far, far above slaves. Your respect comes from your wealth and your connections, not from your birth, which means it can disappear. Nobility is inherited. Your status must be constantly maintained, constantly performed, constantly defended. The king and the palace are your biggest customers, also your biggest threat. You might contract with the palace to supply goods, textiles for the army, grain for royal feasts, copper for construction projects. These contracts are lucrative. They're also non-negotiable. The palace sets prices, below market prices usually. You smile and accept, because refusing means losing access entirely. Royal taxes are mandatory, calculated as a percentage of your income or property. Officials assess your wealth. You pay. You also might offer gifts to ensure the assessment isn't too aggressive. Labor drafts happen. Corvée labor for public works. They might take you for weeks to help dig canals or repair walls. Or they might take your servants, which is almost as bad since your business suffers. You curry favor through gifts, through loyalty, through being seen at the right palace functions. But you're always disposable. Political intrigue is constant. Different factions within the palace, different officials vying for power. If you back the wrong faction, if you're too closely associated with an official who falls from favor, you can be destroyed by association. So you're careful, you're diplomatic, you're friendly to everyone, and committed to no one. Exhausting. Temples are not just religious institutions, they're economic powerhouses. Temples own vast amounts of land. They employ thousands, priests, administrators, laborers, craftsmen. They run businesses. They lend money. They collect tithes and rents. The Temple of Marduk in Babylon is one of the wealthiest institutions in the city, possibly wealthier than the palace, though no one says this out loud. You might rent land from a temple, borrow from the temple treasury at regulated interest rates, sell goods to temple kitchens for offerings and festivals. Religious obligations are constant. Festivals require donations. The gods must be honored. The temples must be supported. If you're seen as stingy with the gods, your reputation suffers. People notice, people talk. Tithes are expected. A percentage of your income to the temple, not legally mandatory like taxes, but socially mandatory. The distinction is academic. Priests are influential. They have the ear of the gods. They interpret omens. They perform rituals. They must be kept happy, which means gifts, respect, deference. Your piety, or at least the appearance of your piety, directly affects your social standing and your business relationships. Babylonian religion is polytheistic. Hundreds of gods, from great cosmic deities to minor local spirits. Major gods you must honor: Marduk, patron god of Babylon, king of the gods, creator of the world, from the corpse of Tiamat. His temple, the Esagila, dominates the city. Shamash, sun god and god of justice, protector of travelers and enforcer of oaths. His symbols are all over the Code of Hammurabi. Ishtar, goddess of love, sex, fertility, and war. Powerful, passionate, dangerous, popular with everyone, feared by many. Ea, god of wisdom. Fresh water, magic, and creation, called upon for protection and knowledge, plus hundreds more, each with specific domains, specific festivals, specific requirements. Daily prayers at your household shrine, offerings of food, beer, incense. Touching your forehead to the ground before the clay figurines. Participation in festivals is mandatory. The New Year Akitu festival is massive, nearly 2 weeks of rituals, processions, public ceremonies. The statue of Marduk is paraded through the streets. The king participates in ritual humiliation and renewal. Everyone is expected to attend, to offer, to celebrate. You bring offerings to the temple: food, drink, incense, animals for sacrifice if you're wealthy enough and the occasion demands it. Before any major business decision, you consult priests for omens. Is this a good time to launch a caravan? Should you enter this partnership? The gods know. The priests interpret. Dreams are messages from the gods. You wake from a vivid dream. You consult a dream interpreter, often a priest. The dream's symbols are analyzed. Good dreams are encouraging. Bad dreams require ritual purification or protective magic. You wear magical amulets. Cylinder seals aren't just for contracts. They often have protective symbols. Lapis lazuli amulets ward off evil. Incantations are recited over you by priests or magicians. Everything is a potential omen. Animal behavior. A dog acting strangely. An omen. Birds flying in unusual patterns. An omen. Weather. Unusual storms. Lightning. Floods. All messages from the gods. Celestial events. Babylonians are pioneering astronomers. They track the stars, planets, the moon. Eclipses are major omens, often interpreted as disasters unless proper rituals are performed. Before big business decisions, financing a caravan, entering a major contract, buying property, you consult diviners. Extispicy is the most prestigious method. A sheep is sacrificed. A priest examines its liver. The shape, color, markings, all interpreted according to complex, traditional knowledge. Clay models exist showing what different liver features mean. This is expensive. You're paying for the sheep, for the priest's expertise, for the ritual. But not doing it is unthinkable for major decisions. Astrology is developing. The movements of planets are tracked and interpreted. Your birth date matters. Certain days are favorable for certain activities. Others are inauspicious. Bad omens mean you cancel plans. Make additional offerings to appease the offended deity. Perform purification rituals. You live in constant awareness of potential divine displeasure. Every success is thanks to the gods' favor. Every setback might be a sign they're angry. The world is full of malevolent spirits, not metaphorically, literally. Demons are real, active, dangerous. Lilitu, female demons who prey on men and children, especially dangerous to pregnant women and infants. Pazuzu, demon of the southwest wind, ironically also invoked for protection against other demons, particularly Lamashtu, who threatens mothers and babies. Dozens more. Demons that cause disease. Demons that bring nightmares. Demons that spoil food or ruin business deals. The evil eye is real. Envy can curse you. Someone looks at your success with jealousy and resentment, and their gaze can bring bad luck, illness, or disaster. So you use apotropaic magic, protective amulets worn around your neck, incantations recited over your household, rituals performed by priests or specialized magicians. Protective figurines are buried under doorways and in the corners of your house. Clay or bronze figures of guardian spirits placed during construction to ward off demons. Illness is often attributed to demons or divine punishment. You get sick. A priest or exorcist is consulted. They determine which demon is responsible or which god you've offended. Then they perform appropriate rituals. You pay for these services regularly. It's not optional. Your reputation is everything. Relationships are built and maintained at festivals, banquets, temple gatherings. You're constantly networking. Who you know determines what opportunities you get. Marriages are strategic alliances. Your children's marriages are carefully negotiated to strengthen business ties. Your daughter marries the son of another successful merchant, creating a partnership between families. Your son marries into a family with palace connections, gaining you access. Love is not the primary consideration. Compatibility may be. Strategic advantage, absolutely. Adultery and sexual scandals destroy reputations. Yours and your family's. A daughter caught in an affair? Devastating. Your wife accused of adultery even falsely? Your honor is damaged. Hospitality is sacred. A guest in your home is under your protection. You feed them generously. Offer them the best you have. Refusing hospitality or treating a guest poorly is deeply shameful. Marriages are contracts, literally, drawn up on clay tablets with terms, witnesses, seals. Dowries and bride prices are negotiated like business deals. How much property does the bride bring? How much does the groom's family pay? It's documented, legally binding. Your wife manages the household. This is a significant responsibility, overseeing servants, managing food stores, maintaining the household shrine, possibly conducting small business transactions. Concubines are legal if you can afford them. This creates household tension. Your wife might resent them. The concubines compete for favor. Children of concubines have different inheritance rights. It's complicated and fraught. Children are investments. Sons will learn your trade, become your business partners, inherit your wealth. Daughters will marry strategically, creating alliances. Sons inherit the bulk of the estate, divided among them. Daughters receive dowries when they marry. Adoption is surprisingly common. If you have no sons, you might adopt an heir. Sometimes adoptions cement business relationships. Adopting your partner's son creates a formal bond. Gossip spreads incredibly quickly in Babylon's markets and residential neighborhoods. Everyone knows everyone's business, or thinks they do. Accusations stick even when disproven. You're accused of fraud, you're acquitted, but people remember the accusation. Isn't he the one who? The shadow never fully lifts. Honor culture is strong. Insults must be addressed, not violently, usually. Babylon is urban and legalistic, not a warrior society, but through social pressure, legal action, public confrontations. Public humiliation for debts or crimes is devastating. Being paraded through the market as a debtor, being beaten in public as punishment. These destroy your social standing permanently. Excommunication from merchant networks is social and economic death. The informal networks of merchants, who you trade with, who you trust, who shares information. If you're cut out, you're finished. You have wealth, real wealth, a good house, a family, respect in the community, but you're not free. You're always vulnerable to the gods' displeasure, to the code's harsh punishments, to rivals who might spread damaging rumors, to bad luck that might ruin you despite your best efforts. Every success must be publicly attributed to the gods' favor. False modesty is required. Too much pride invites divine punishment and social resentment. Every failure is blamed on you. You angered the gods. You failed to make proper offerings. You ignored an omen. You're unlucky, which means you're disfavored. Constant performance of piety. You must be seen praying, offering, participating in festivals, consulting omens, wearing protective amulets. Constant performance of success. You must look prosperous, but not arrogant, generous, but not wasteful, pious, but not fanatical. The weight of it all is enormous. You've survived the marketplace, the desert, the legal system, the social expectations, the religious obligations. You're still here, still a merchant in Babylon, still navigating the impossible balance of wealth and vulnerability. But there are other dangers, more immediate, more physical, because Babylon is crowded, dirty, and disease-ridden. Medicine is a mix of practical knowledge and magical ritual. Injury and illness can kill you quickly. And violence is always close. Arguments escalate, robberies happen. The city has crime, the law has punishments, but that doesn't always stop people. Your body is fragile. Your health is precarious. That's next. You're a successful merchant. You've navigated the marketplace, the desert, the law, the gods. Your body is keeping score. Long hours in the heat take a toll. Heat stroke is common. You've seen merchants collapse in the marketplace, skin flushed. Confusion setting in. Some recover. Some don't. Dehydration is constant. You drink beer because water from the Euphrates can kill you faster. But beer doesn't fully hydrate. Your head aches, your mouth is perpetually dry, your eyes hurt. Hours reading cuneiform tablets by flickering oil lamp. The tiny wedge-shaped marks blur together. Your eyes burn and water. Eye infections are common. Dust, sun, strain. Your back and joints ache. You sit cross-legged on the floor for hours conducting business. No chairs with back support. Just floor and low stools. By middle age, your knees protest every morning. Stress manifests physically, though you don't understand why. Your stomach burns. Sometimes you vomit bile. You eat rich foods. You can afford to. And your joints swell painfully. Gout, though you don't have that word for it. Obesity is possible for wealthy merchants, actually seen as a sign of success. But it makes the heat worse, the movement harder. Respiratory issues from constant dust storms and the smoke from oil lamps and incense. You cough. Everyone coughs. The air in Babylon is never quite clean. When you're sick or injured, you have options. Two types of healers. The ASU, physician, uses practical treatments, herbs, bandages, salves, occasionally surgery. The Ashapu, exorcist, magician, determines which demon or god is causing your illness, performs rituals and incantations to drive out the evil or appease the deity. Often, you need both. The physician might give you a poultice of herbs for your infected wound. The exorcist determines that the demon Lamashtu cursed you and performs a protective ritual. Diagnosis involves reading omens. Your symptoms are examined, but so are divine signs. Did you have bad dreams before getting sick? Did you offend a god recently? Herbal remedies are hit or miss. Some work. Willow bark genuinely reduces pain and fever. Honey applied to wounds actually prevents infection. Others are useless or harmful. Surgery exists. Setting broken bones, draining abscesses, even trepanation, drilling holes in the skull to relieve pressure or release evil spirits. No anesthesia, maybe strong beer. Opium exists but is rare and expensive, usually reserved for the wealthy or palace officials. Mostly, you just suffer through it. Infections kill frequently. A minor cut becomes infected. Within days, red lines spread up your arm. Fever sets in. You might survive. You might not. Waterborne diseases are a constant threat. Dysentery, cholera. The Euphrates is contaminated with human and animal waste. You drink beer to avoid the worst, but you still bathe in the river, wash vegetables in it. Parasites are common. Intestinal worms from contaminated food. Liver flukes from eating raw or undercooked fish. You might have parasites right now and not know it until you're malnourished and weak. Malaria from mosquitoes breeding in the marshes and irrigation canals. Recurring fevers, chills, weakness. It can kill you or just make you chronically ill. Eye diseases are epidemic. Trachoma from dust and flies. Infections that can lead to blindness. You see blind beggars in the streets. Many lost their sight to preventable infections. Tuberculosis spreads in crowded city conditions. The cough that never stops, wasting away. Contagious, though no one understands how disease spreads. Leprosy exists. Victims become outcasts, driven from the city. The disease is terrifying and poorly understood. Plague outbreaks happen. Entire neighborhoods can be devastated. Bodies pile up. The city reeks of death. You make frantic offerings to the gods and pray your household is spared. The heat itself is a hazard. Summer temperatures are genuinely deadly. Heat stroke kills workers and merchants alike. You've learned to retreat indoors during the worst hours, but sometimes business demands you be outside. Dust storms rise suddenly. The sky turns brown. You can't see, can't breathe properly. You cover your face and wait it out. Eyes stinging, throat raw. Building collapses happen. Mud brick structures, especially poorly maintained ones, simply fail. Walls crack. Roofs cave in. People die buried in rubble. Floods from the Euphrates are catastrophic when they happen. Irrigation canals overflow. Water surges through streets. Homes dissolve. People drown. Fire spreads terrifyingly fast in densely packed neighborhoods. One house catches fire from a cooking accident, a tipped lamp, and suddenly an entire block is burning. Mud brick doesn't burn, but the contents do. The heat cracks the walls. Everything collapses. Babylon has no police force, not in any modern sense. There's a community watch in neighborhoods, palace guards patrol near government buildings and temples. But law enforcement is minimal. Theft is rampant in the markets. Pickpockets work the crowds. Your attention is on a negotiation, and someone's hand slips into your bag. Your silver is gone. Burglars target wealthy homes. They watch. They learn your patterns. They break in when you're away or asleep. Armed robbery happens. You're carrying goods or silver through a quiet street. Men with knives appear. They take everything. If you resist, they kill you. You're a target because you're known to have wealth. Assault and murder happen over debts, over honor, over simple robbery. Bodies are found in alleys. Sometimes the perpetrators are caught and punished under the code. Often they're not. Weapons are common. Most men carry a knife, a bronze dagger, primarily a tool, but also protection. Clubs, occasionally bronze swords, though those are expensive. Self-defense is your responsibility. No one is coming to save you. You might hire a guard for your home and shop, a man who looks intimidating, ideally with experience. Expensive, but worth it. Thick wooden doors, barred at night from the inside. Windows are small and high for a reason. You sleep with a weapon nearby, a bronze dagger under your pillow or within arm's reach. You've never had to use it. You hope you never do. Valuables are hidden, buried in the courtyard, concealed in walls, not kept all in one place. Dogs serve as guards. They bark when strangers approach. Not trained attack dogs, just loud warnings. Constant vigilance. You're aware of your surroundings. Who's watching you? Who's following? Paranoia, again, is survival. Arguments escalate quickly in Babylon's heat and crowds. Honor disputes are serious. An insult must be answered. Not always with violence, often through legal channels or social pressure, but sometimes fists fly. Knives come out. Drunkenness is common. Beer is everywhere, consumed all day. Drunk men are aggressive. Fights break out in taverns, in markets, at festivals. Brawls erupt, sometimes over nothing. A bump in the crowd, a misheard word. Suddenly, men are swinging. Bystanders rarely intervene. Not their problem. Not their business. You learn to walk away from trouble when you can. Then there's the violence that's legal, sanctioned, public. Punishments under the code are brutal and public. Executions happen in open spaces. Drowning in the Euphrates for adultery or serious fraud. Burning for certain crimes. Impalement, rare, but it happens, for the worst offenses. Floggings for lesser crimes. The guilty tied to a post, beaten with rods until their back is raw. Mutilations. You've watched a man have his hand cut off for theft. The executioner used a bronze axe. One strike. The hand fell. The man screamed. They cauterized the stump with a hot iron. He might survive. He might not. Watching these punishments is common. It's entertainment and deterrent. Children watch. You watch. Everyone watches. The violence is normalized. This is justice. This is order. This is civilization. Babylon is often at war, with Elam to the east, with Assyria to the north, with other city-states competing for resources and power. You might be conscripted for military campaigns or forced labor to support the army. Building siege works, hauling supplies, wars disrupt trade routes. Your caravans can't get through. Your income stops. Soldiers return from campaigns bringing disease. Plagues follow armies. The city suffers. Your wealth might exempt you from conscription. You pay someone to go in your place, or you bribe officials. But not always. Not if the need is desperate enough. Political instability threatens everything. A new king, a palace coup, a lost war. Any of these can upend your life. Here's the terrifying reality. Injury or illness can end your career instantly. You break a leg badly, it doesn't set properly. You can't walk long distances anymore. Can't travel with caravans. Your business collapses. You go blind from an eye infection. You can't read contracts. Can't verify weights. You're finished. No disability support exists. No insurance. No pension. You work until you die or until you physically can't continue. Then you depend on your family, if they're willing and able to support you, or you become a beggar. Your family's survival depends entirely on your health and ability to work. One accident, one illness, and you're all plunged into poverty. You've survived another day in Babylon. Your body aches, your eyes are tired, your stomach burns, but you're alive. The sun is setting. The heat is finally, mercifully breaking. The city's noise is subsiding to a low murmur. You head home, to your household shrine, to your family, to whatever rest you can find before tomorrow begins the cycle again. You've made it through. One more day without losing a hand, without losing your life, without losing everything. In Babylon, that counts as success. The sun is setting over Babylon. The sky turns from pale blue to orange to deep purple. The heat is finally breaking. The marketplace empties. Vendors pack up. You do the same. You carefully wrap your remaining goods, secure everything in storage. Then you count the day's silver. Each piece weighed on your scales. You calculate. Profit after taxes, bribes, expenses. Decent. Not great. Decent. But already your mind spins with worry. Did you offend that palace official? Are the gods displeased? That strange dream last night, was it an omen you missed? Will tomorrow bring ruin? The worrying never stops. You review clay tablets recording today's transactions. Who bought what? Who owes you? Who you owe? The mental accounting is exhausting. Debts owed to you by a dozen merchants. Debts you owe to creditors, partners, the temple, already planning. What goods to buy tomorrow? Which caravans to join? What contracts to pursue? Your mind never rests. You return home. The household is preparing supper. Your wife greets you. Children are there. Servants cooking over the fire. Supper is better than breakfast. Roasted mutton or fish, barley stew, fresh bread, dates, beer, a moment of peace. You eat with your family, but conversations still revolve around business. Your son asks about an angry customer. Your wife mentions a neighbor secured a palace contract. Talk of arranging your daughter's marriage, which family offers the best alliance. Obligations, strategy. Even at home, never truly at rest. After the meal, you approach the household shrine. Evening prayers are mandatory. You kneel before clay figurines of Marduk, Shamash, protective spirits. You offer food from supper, a cup of beer poured at the shrine's base. Incense, if you can spare it. You pray. Thank the gods for today's survival. Ask for continued favor. Apologize for any unknown offense. Protection rituals before bed. Reciting incantations against demons, the evil eye, misfortune. You check doors are barred. Valuables still hidden. Dogs alert. Oil lamps flicker. Expensive to burn all evening, so you conserve them. Some evenings bring other obligations. A banquet, hosted by another merchant or temple official. You attend because you must, or you visit a tavern, beer houses where merchants gather, share information, make deals. You maintain relationships while exhausted. Every interaction strategic. Who's rising? Who's falling? What alliances can you strengthen? Even leisure is work. You lie on your raised platform. Read mats and linen. Relatively comfortable, but anxiety keeps you awake. Will customers honor contracts? Will the caravan you invested in return safely? Or will bandits take everything? Will the palace requisition your goods without fair payment? Will someone accuse you of fraud? A disgruntled customer? A jealous rival? A partner who wants out? Will the gods send a bad omen forcing you to cancel plans? Success and ruin are separated by the thinnest margin. You're living in one of humanity's first great civilizations. Babylon is genuinely a wonder. Sophisticated laws, writing systems, mathematics and astronomy, irrigation turning desert into farmland, ziggurats reaching toward heaven. This is civilization, human achievement. But that doesn't make your life easy. Every achievement brings crushing obligations. Wealth brings envy, not security. The gods always watching. The law harsh and unforgiving. Rivals everywhere. Most merchants scrape by or fail entirely. Success is rare and fleeting. You're one drought away from ruin. One bad omen from cancelling a profitable venture. One false accusation from losing everything. The desert waits to kill you. The heat, the diseases, the violence, all waiting to destroy what you've built. There's no retirement, no escape. You work until you die or your body fails. You were born into this world, and you'll die in it. You lie on your mat, staring at stars through the courtyard, impossibly bright, more than you can count. The same stars your ancestors saw. You think, did I survive today? Yes, barely. By the skin of your teeth and the favor of gods, you can never fully please. Tomorrow brings more heat, more haggling, more prayers, more fear. This is Babylonian merchant life. Wealth, sophistication, and endless anxiety. So that's a day in ancient Babylon's markets. One of the world's first great cities, where civilization was invented along with writing, law, and the timeless anxiety of commerce, where you could make a fortune or lose a hand, sometimes both. Thank the modern world for air conditioning, antibiotics, and the rule of law that doesn't involve drowning people for watering down beer. But history has more stories to tell. Let's journey to another time and place where ambition, power, and survival collided in unexpected ways. Sleep well. From the dust and heat of ancient Babylon, we're jumping forward, way forward, nearly 3,500 years into the future, to be precise. From the world's first great cities to the elegant streets of the Dutch Golden Age, from merchants haggling over copper and cumin to something far stranger, tulip bulbs selling for the price of a house. Welcome to 1637. Welcome to the Netherlands. Welcome to humanity's first recorded financial bubble, where fortunes were made overnight, lost by morning, and everyone involved thought this time it would be different. Spoiler, it wasn't. So settle in. Let the story of tulip mania carry you gently towards sleep, where greed, beauty, and economic disaster bloomed together in the most unexpected way.